Assalamu alaikum everyone. I am Manahil Rimor Jawali. I am a student of Rehan School, Korangi Campus, and I am joining you from the vibrant city of Karachi, Pakistan. Today I am honored and excited to introduce our esteemed guest. He is a visionary and educator and change maker whose work has transcended their boundaries and sectors. So, viewers, please join me in welcoming Mr. Fyodor. Today, we will delve deep into his inspiring life journey and the impactful he's been a part of. So, without further ado, let's get started. Welcome, sir. How are you? Can you repeat because your
Yeah,
mic is mute?
right. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for giving me your precious time.
Thank you.
All right. First of all, please introduce yourself for my viewers.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Fyodor Ovchinnikov. I grew up in Russia, and I currently located in Oakland, California, United States, and been here for about 12 years. And I'm a co-founder and a director of Evolutionary Futures Lab, which is an educational organization, but also a lab for different kind of experiments around systemic change for a more just, sustainable, and flourishing world. And in parallel, along with that, I also am an instructor at Uptima Entrepreneur Cooperative and board member there, and advisory board member of the United Nations Association of the USA San Francisco chapter here in the Bay Area.
All right, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your introduction. So now let's move on to questions. My first question is on your screen. Can you describe the main objective and mission of the Evolutionary Future Lab?
Sure. Yeah, the purpose of the Evolutionary Futures Lab is to explore and catalyze radically more just, sustainable, and flourishing futures through learning and collective action for systems transformation. In general, the idea is that we as humanity have different futures that could be our reality, right? And the most common futures the most likely futures are not necessarily that bright right now with everything that's happening in the world, from climate change to wars. And we are not in exactly very just and sustainable world right now. So, and the idea is, how can we come together across different stakeholder groups and think about what we can do now so that our future is radically more just, sustainable, and flourishing.
All right, great purpose. Thank you so much, sir, for your answer. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. So now let's move on to next question. My next question is on your screen. Can you share some more about your role as an instructor and mentor at Optima Entrepreneur Cooperative?
Yes, sure, absolutely. Yeah. So Evolution Futures Lab and Optima are very much connected because actually my co-founder and mentor Manuel Manga and I went through the very first cohort of Uptima Entrepreneur Cooperative back in 2014, 2015. And Evolution Futures Lab was the first Optima company to give equity to Optima. So Optima actually owns 5% of Evolution Futures Lab. And in 2015, when I was still in the program, the founder of Optima, Rani Langer Kroger, asked me to stay as a mentor. So I stayed to mentor the second cohort of entrepreneurs and stayed ever since. Now I teach a couple of courses and advise entrepreneurs. Optima Entrepreneur Cooperative is a very interesting cooperative accelerator because it officially adopted just transition framework as a political framework. So it's not just accelerator that helps businesses. It also is contributing to the new economy. So that is not extractive. That is more regenerative economy based on relational rather than transactional approaches. And also there is a lot of work that Optima is doing to serve local entrepreneurs and specifically entrepreneurs of color in the Boston area, Chicago area, and the Bay Area. And a lot of my colleagues are coming from from different American human rights movements, and there is a political component to that as well. There is power building across different organizations working with Optima. That's kind of rally people around local elections and things like that. So it's a very complex, very multi-dimensional thing that is also very much aligned with what Evolutionary Futures Lab is doing. So my advice there is a little bit more practical than, more related to how to start and run a business that is aligned with a just transition framework. And but that is very much aligned with my more kind of broader and more international focus of the Evolutionary Futures Lab.
All right, that's great, wonderful. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear.
Thank you so much for your answer. So now let's move on to next question. My next question is on your screen. What prompted in inception of the values of 20 groups?
Oh yeah, this is one thing I didn't mention in my introduction. Yeah, Values 20 is an emerging engagement group of G20 Summit. So G20 Summit is of 20 is a group of 20 biggest economists in the world, and the governments meet and every year. And they have engagement groups where civil society comes together to advise on certain issues. For example, there is B20, Business 20, where there are representatives of businesses, and C20, Civic Society 20, and T20, like Think 20, Academia. So Women 20, Youth 20, right? So. And these are official engagement groups. They're on the website of G20, and so they're pretty much established. They've been around for a few years, and there are new that are added once in a while. So in this one, started in Saudi Arabia in 2020 when Saudi Arabia hosted G20 Summit. So that was started by an organizing committee in Saudi, and then each year the organizing committee shifts to the country where the summit is hosted. So we had Italy, we had Indonesia, we had India. The group is on the track to become an official group because it takes a few years to produce quality policy briefs every year, and they are already shared with the Secretariat of G20. And through that work, we hope that at some point the group will be official. Evolutionary Futures Lab is an official knowledge partner for the last couple of years. So I joined in a personal capacity first, and was a chapter lead for a couple of years writing policy briefs. And for the last couple of years, we are coordinating different task forces so that we could help build cohesion across different task forces and chapters.
Hi, Manahir. How are you? I'm good. Thank you so much, sir, for giving me.
I can hear you, but I can also hear some other line.
I don't know, sir.
Oh yeah, now it's fine. Yeah, now it's fine.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, sir, for your answer. So my next question is, how do you see values strengthening public policy, especially in the relation to the G20?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So G20 every year has a presidency agenda determined by the country that's hosting the summit. And Values 20, the purpose of Value 20 is provide values-based perspective on how to reach, on different ways to reach the goals outlined in the president's agenda, and solve, address different issues. In V20, we talk about values being, some values being universal and some values being cultural specific, and the importance of agreeing what these are. Because as a global community, we don't want to be absolutely the same, right? We want to celebrate a diversity of values that are traditional to different societies and different communities, and at the same time, there are certain values that are universal across different communities and different religions and different peoples, and that, for example, would that could allow us to live in peace globally. And when we talk about public policy, we need to be sensitive to the local context, right? So not to promote some value that is very cultural specific to, I don't know, the United States of America, for example, and this shouldn't be imposed on countries where this value is traditionally not typical, right? But at the same time, there are certain values, like, for example, the value of human life or peace or freedom, right? And again, there could be some very local interpretations of that, and we should be aware of that. But also, there are certain, values that we can all agree on, and when these policy recommendations are provided, it's very important to be grounded in those kind of values. So that because an alternative to that is, for example, suggest some policies that would entrench division and address certain issues locally or nationally at the expense of other countries or communities. And this is something that we need to watch out for and really ground our recommendations in the need to benefit all humanity at the end. So. Okay, can you hear me now? What motivates you to serve on the advisory board of the UNA, right? You can hear me, right? Can you hear me? Okay, great. Yeah. Right. So United Nations Association of the USA San Francisco chapter. First of all, what this is. So UNAs actually precede the United Nations. So United Nations was founded after World War II in 1945 to prevent the next World War, right? And then the idea was that in order to prevent the next World War, people need to think about development, right? So it's so that everybody has enough resources and everybody has enough rights, and then we will have less wars. Right, and then there is also a mechanism to the Security Council that also is supposed to act on potential threats to global security, which is not very effective these days, but at least there was some attempt to do that. Before the UN was founded, in 1943, United Nations associations that were called differently at that point. It was American Association for the UN and Friends of the United Nations, and they also worked closely with the Association for the League of Nations, because League of Nations was kind of a UN predecessor that kind of failed to prevent World War II. So these associations work together to rally public support for the new global organization. American UNA was one of the civil society organizations that advised the American delegation at San Francisco conference. And actually here in San Francisco, there was a conference in April through June 1945, where the United Nations Charter was developed and signed. So San Francisco is in some ways birthplace of the United Nations, right? So it wasn't until October 1945 when the charter was ratified by the governments of the initial members, and then the UN started functioning in New York and Geneva. But the charter was developed and signed in San Francisco. So the local chapter, like right now, UNAs, there are like about 100 different global UNAs. By the way, Pakistan has a UNA. We collaborated with UNA Pakistan when we celebrated the 75th anniversary of the United Nations and hosted global dialogues. We collaborate with UNA Venezuela, UNA Ghana, UNA Pakistan, UNA France, and UNA USA. Basically, that was a collaboration, and Pakistan, UNA Pakistan, kind of represented the Asian region, and we represented North America. So essentially, there are like over 100 different UNAs globally, all connected as a World Federation of United Nations Associations. Our headquarters, UNA USA, is in Washington, D.C., and we have about 200 chapters across America. So I was on the board of directors of UNA San Francisco chapter. And that is a very special chapter because it's located in the city where the charter was signed. So that's why, as a chapter, we got the privilege of initiate and host this collaboration with national UNAs across the globe. So I was invited initially to do board development, and then very quickly after I did board development, I started doing programming, and I started a program with the University of San Francisco for young professionals who want to work on sustainable development goals. We did some work in, on global consultations of participating in global conversation that Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, started in 2020. I was on the board for about 7 years. And it's too much, right? So essentially, I was going to rotate out, but decided to resign earlier because I actually had a very good project in mind for the Evolutionary Futures Lab. And I wanted to invite UNASF to join, but it would be conflict of interest for me to be on the leadership teams of both organizations. So I had to leave the leadership team of UNA. Then they invited me to join the advisory board, which I was glad to accept. It's an honor to be on the advisory board. But that is more kind of, that's not leadership. I don't impact any decisions now. I kind of advise, and advisors very often collaborate with their own organizations, which is what I'm doing now. But now, Helen, unfortunately, I cannot hear you. I don't know why. Yeah, it's like as if you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can hear you.
All right, sir. It's a wonderful. Thank you so much, sir, for your answer. So now let's move on to the next question. My next question is, have you contributed to the All Academy practice team committee at the Academy of Management?
Okay, great. Okay, so first of all, what's Academy of Management? It's an association of management scholars. It's located in North America, but it's international. So about 40% of the members at least used to be international, and about 60% was American. It's about 18,000 members. And it's primarily professors of management, essentially, or students of management. But then there is a relatively small subset of membership that's practitioners, and that's who I was. So as an entrepreneur, I joined to get some knowledge about entrepreneurship from the Academy of Management. And then I joined the entrepreneurship division, tried to explore what's going on there. Won Best Reviewer Award when I tried to review papers, which was funny because I was not even an academic. And then I came to the conference to receive that award and found out that entrepreneurship division was not very friendly to practitioners. Like management consulting division had 25% of practitioners, and entrepreneurship division had less than 4%. And that was the second least popular division or interest group in the academy after research methods, and that was entrepreneurship. That was supposed to be about innovation and things like that. So it was kind of funny. I asked my I basically volunteered to do some news editing at the communications committee of the entrepreneurship division, and then asked to attend an executive committee meeting. And then after that, I came to my supervisor, chair of the committee, and said, "Look, do you know that you guys are the second least popular division among practitioners?" And it's like, "No, I didn't know that." It's like, "Okay, can I work on that?" And then we came to the division chair, and I got permission to work on that and did some cool work. So we established a new award that would give incentive to academics to collaborate with practitioners. And the first recipient of that award was Professor Noam Wasserman from Harvard Business School. So it was a pretty prestigious award of the academy. And I got connected with some incredible people there who were also practitioners and felt that they were not valued at the academy. One of them was Tom Walter, who at that point owned 9 different businesses in Chicago area, and came to the conference and had people not talking to him because he's a practitioner. And then one particular example that he had is that somebody didn't want to talk to them to him in the elevator, and then the dean of that professor asked her to invite Tom as entrepreneur in residence. And that was an awkward moment when her supervisor was actually asking her to invite the guy she refused to talk to because he was a practitioner. So that was kind of issues we were dealing with. And I did some work and it got recognized at the academy level. So I was asked by the president of the academy to join the leadership forum and share my work with leadership of all 25 divisions and interest groups. And through that, I got invited to join the practice theme committee, which is all academy committee, was professional development workshop co-chair, and then practitioner empowerment director for a few years. That's all volunteer. UNA is volunteer work, and Academy of Management is volunteer work. So it's about maybe 10-15% of my time.
All right, sir. Great. That's awesome. Thank you so much, sir, for your answer. So, my next question is, how do you apply the lessons you learned in Moscow to your work in the US?
Thank you. Sure. So in Moscow, I was privileged to get very good education. I went to one of the best mathematical high schools in Moscow. Then I went to study China and economics at Moscow University. So that was one of the best places to study that in Russia. And at that point, that was probably the best time to get education in Russia because it was in between, the Soviet Union already collapsed and there was this openness, and many Russian universities collaborated with a lot of other educational institutions around the globe. There was this whole friendly atmosphere. And of course, now we have a war between Russia and Ukraine, and we have international isolation and then ideological pressure in Russia. Many collaborative projects and programs have been closed for political reasons. At that time, it was 2002 when I started my classes at the university, right? That was still, a very good time to do that. And the mindset that was prevailing and Russian educational institutions was very much of a global mindset. And there were a lot of things that are directly applicable in the United States. Also, studying culture, such a different culture as China. So I learned the skill of actually looking around and learning from people directly. And I spent some time in China, which was part of the process. We have to live in China for a year as part of our education. And, in the United States, it's the same thing. So when I found myself in Oakland, California, I was not just like going to the grocery store and then to office and like not looking around. So I paid attention. I built relationships. I learned, and I I read history, right? So things like buying books on eBay from the 19th century and learning about the history of racism in America, and talking with people and friends here and learning their direct experiences right now, and how to navigate that, and what it means to be an outsider in Oakland, somebody who just came here. So what can I do not to become one of those gentrifiers who without any regard to the local community trying to like do their own thing. So how to be to be in solidarity with people I really value a lot, and who've been here for a long time. So all of that is something that I can say so a lot of that, at least, I picked up at the university through the intercultural communication studies, and that helped a lot.
All right, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your answer. And it has been an enlightening conversation. And I sincerely hope our listener have gained as much insight and inspiration as I have today. So, Uh, Fyodor, Mr. Fyodor, your journey and the impact of your work serve as a testament to the positive change one can bring to the world. Thank you for taking the time to share your experiences and wisdom with us. So, to our audience, thank you for joining us today. Let's remember the valuable lessons and insights from this conversation and apply them in our own ways to make difference. So, thank you so much, sir, for your time.
Thank you, Banachel. It was a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to watching the recording and hearing comments if there are any.
All right, thank you. So, bye. Have a wonderful day ahead.